Whenever we're in Hyrule, we're always so busy collecting Triforce pieces and trying to defeat Ganon that we never stop to see what types of bourbon the kingdom has to offer. But let's face it, no matter how many times you destroy Ganon, he always keeps coming back. So this playthrough, we're going to take our time and do some bourbon hunting instead. Zelda's just going to have to wait. In the last episode, we found this tasty bottle of Elijah Craig's small batch and purchased it from a shop that was just a short walk east from the first dungeon. What bourbons will we discover this time? Let's find out. I love how all these shops just sell bourbon and weapons. You already burned that bush, Chunk. Yes, you did. Right before you went into the shop. Same bush. So with all this talk of Elijah Craig being the father of bourbon, I just remembered something. Isn't Basil Hayden the grandfather of bourbon? I mean, his portrait says the granddaddy of bourbon. And since Elijah Craig is supposed to be the father of bourbon, doesn't that mean that Basil Hayden Sr. would be the father of Elijah Craig? So what's this place? Huh. This guy's trying to grow grain. Is he supposed to be a farmer or something? No seeds, huh? So this is just a dirt farm then. I guess that means you're supposed to find some seeds somewhere for this guy to plant? What types of grain do you think he wants to grow? Oats? Millet? Buckwheat? Quinoa? You think sorghum, maybe? Oh yeah. If he is growing grain for Hyrule's distillery, he's probably going to be looking for some good whiskey-producing grains. He's going to want some barley then. Do we know if Hyrule has barley? I don't think I know what types of grain are native to this kingdom. Hopefully Hyrule has barley. Otherwise, he'll just have to be happy with whatever we find for him. Well, I believe barley is generally considered the best grain for alcohol fermentation. But if we can't find any barley, they can still ferment with other grains. But I don't think the farmer really cares about that. That's really more of the distiller's problem. Well, what do we have here? So, when you chose that bottle of 4 roses, the old man just chucked the Triforce into the garbage? What's the MSRP of a Triforce fragment? This Moblin's selling it pretty cheap. I wonder if that means it's hot. Maybe he got the fragment by assaulting the old man in the dungeon and robbing him. Whew, that's a relief. For a while there, I was worried we wouldn't be able to beat the game. They say the barrels for this Elijah Craig are charred at a level 3 char. Do you think you could taste the difference between a level 2 and a level 3? Or a level 3 and a level 4 char? I'm not sure if I could. What if Heaven Hill were to take their char up to level 11? What do you think would happen if they put their new make in a barrel with a level 11 char? Do you think that would make a good bourbon? I've heard that the level 4 char is called an alligator char because it leaves the scorched surface of the oak inside the barrel all cracked and scaly. What do you think a level 11 char would be called? Probably something cool, right? Like a Tyrannosaurus char? Or what's that giant prehistoric alligator? What's that thing called? Yeah, Deinosuchus. A level 11 would be a Deinosuchus char. Awesome. Uh-oh, it's this lady again. I think you might have really upset her. Wow, she gave you a ton of rupees. Usually grandparents only give you like $1 to listen to their boring stories. Kidnapped, yes, you said that. Death Mountain, huh? Well, I think you're going there anyway, right? I feel like a lot of these problems really aren't your business. Yeah, she's going on a little long. She's probably not going to be happy you ditched her again. Although I can't say I blame you this time. Anyway, as I was saying before, if Basil Hayden is the grandfather of bourbon, and Elijah Craig is the father of Bourbon, that means that Basil Hayden is the father of Elijah Craig. That follows, right? I mean, that would have to be true, wouldn't it? So, if this is the case, do you understand what that means? That would mean that Elijah Craig is the real father of the creator of the Old Grandad brand, Raymond B. Hayden. And you know what else follows from that? Well, first, we know that Raymond B. Hayden is the grandson of Basil Hayden Sr., and also that Bourbon is the grandson of Basil Hayden Sr. Second, we know that Bourbon is the son of Elijah Craig, and we've just now deduced that Raymond Hayden must also be the son of Elijah Craig. From this, it follows that Raymond Hayden is himself Bourbon, that he is the manifestation of Bourbon in bodily form. Raymond B. Hayden and Bourbon are one and the same entity. Let me try to explain how I think this might have happened. As we know, Raymond Hayden was deep into the science and theory of distillation, and was always driven to push his scientific discipline to its limits. Knowing that distillation separates the lightest elements of a fermented liquid and concentrates them into its strongest and purest form, he hypothesized that if he himself were to undergo distillation, what would emerge would be the strongest and purest form of the person he could be, and it would leave all of his heavier elements behind, along with his impurities, defects, flaws, etc. Hayden became obsessed with this idea, and it wasn't before long that he devised an experiment to put this theory to the test. Raymond conducted this experiment late one night when he was all alone in the still house. He loaded a batch of distiller's beer into the column still and set the distillation to begin automatically. Then he disrobed and climbed into the still himself, closing the door behind him. But as he waited for the distillation to begin, doubts started to creep in, and he began having second thoughts about what he was doing. Oops, I'll continue this after. Ooh, no. That's an even worse deal on a shield than before. I'd skip this one. You can definitely find a merchant with a better price than that. You just can't leave without buying something, can you? Russell's Reserve 10-year-old, huh? Not bad. Yeah, we should give it a taste. So here we are with the Russell's Reserve 10-year-old small batch, a bourbon we purchased from a bearded cave-dwelling man for 42 rupees. Yeah, that's a fine price. So, Russell's Reserve is produced at the Wild Turkey Distillery in Kentucky. I won't go into the entire history of the distillery here, but this particular expression is the creation of Eddie Russell, the son of Jimmy Russell. Jimmy Russell has been the master distiller at Wild Turkey since the 60s and has managed to transcend that boundary from bourbon celebrity to bourbon legend. Now that he's in his 80s, I don't think he's as involved in Wild Turkey's day-to-day operations as much as he used to be, so he might be more of a master distiller emeritus, but I think he's still very much a part of the process. Jimmy handed down the tradition of whiskey making to the next master distiller, his son Eddie Russell, who I assume handles the lion's share of the master distiller responsibilities these days. Anyway, this expression is 10 years old and 90 proof, which for me is probably kind of my personal sweet spot for drinkability. This expression was originally created to commemorate Jimmy Russell back in the late 90s, and has endured in some slight variations since then, culminating in the version you see today, which is pretty widely available. So let's see what it's like. It's not as sweet as I expected this bourbon to be. It leans toward the sour, with a little bit of rhubarb and grapefruit. There's also some peanuts and banana in there. It's slightly herbal. To me, this is coming across as a little drier than most bourbons I've tried with this kind of age on them. There's some caramel in there as well, but it's a little more in the background. In a way, it's faintly reminiscent of some dry, hard ciders I've had, which might sound a bit odd. For me, the sour fruit quality seems to be the more dominant characteristic. I sort of have mixed feelings about this one. I think I'm going to give it 3 stars and 1 leg, which is a highly subjective rating. I mean, all whiskey scoring is pretty subjective, but I'm just highlighting that here because I feel like my enjoyment of this is a bit out of sync with what it truly deserves. I've struggled with the Wild Turkey profile over the years. Something about it just doesn't quite mesh with me, so it's certainly not the fault of this particular bottling. It's more likely the problem is with me, because everyone else loves Wild Turkey. Maybe I'll get it someday. Kinda hope I do, honestly. Okay, Chunk. Shall we get back out into Hyrule? Alright, away we go.